All right, welcome back to the NASCAR Nick podcast. It is the day after Texas. I am Nick, and I haven't said this in a few weeks, but I'm here to run my mouth for a little bit. Um, Texas getting better with age, like most tracks. At the end of was it a 400? What is it? 267. Yeah. So after 400 miles, Chase Elliott scores his second win of the season. Second at Texas, coming his first one coming 2 years ago in this race. Ran towards the front all day, won stage two, led a handful of laps, what did he lead, like 87 laps. Was the best Hendrick car all day. I know there was, when I was listening to qualifying, there was a little fear with the Hendrick cars not running that well. Um, I'm sorry, no, the Hendrick cars practiced well. They qualified poorly. I think I believe it was William Byron who was towards the front in practice, but qualified deep in the field. Was it? I want to say he qualified in the 20s. William Byron. William Byron qualified. He qualified 15th, but it wasn't. His qualifying wasn't indicative to his practice. Um, Alex Bowman had a good run. Kyle Larson had his issues. Um, I don't know what to make of Hendrick Motorsports. We are, 11 races into the season now? They have 2 wins, both with the same driver. Theoretically, they could have 3 wins with that driver if a push goes a different way in the 500. And we're getting up to this interesting point in the season where Hendrick should be a top dog, and they're just not. I don't know if it's crew chief driver. You wouldn't think so. Um, but we're getting to a very interesting point in the season. It's going to be, before you know it, we're going to have the stretch run down to the playoffs, down to into the chase. 3 of the 4 drivers are currently in the inside the top 16, and Alex Bowman. We'll see if he can get there or not, even after missing a handful of races. Um, but we're going to, we have a good stretch of tracks coming up for them with Watkins Glen, where they've been strong in the past, with wins from Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. Dover last year, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson ran well there. William Byron dominated the 600 last year, only to get passed late by Ross Chastain. So by the end of this month, we should have a clearer picture than what we have right now on what's the deal at Hendrick Motorsports. But no, Chase Elliott scoring the win, the Amazon Prime paint scheme. I have to say, I think that's my personal favorite Chase Elliott paint scheme. Not of all time, but definitely of this year. I know it's similar to last year's. I believe it's the same thing as last year's. Uh, but top 5, obviously Elliott winning, Hamlin second, Bowman third. We're going to talk about Bowman here in a couple seconds. Tyler Reddick, the highest finishing driver who came down and pitted on that late restart there. He came and took 2 tires. He finished 4th. And honestly, if he didn't get held up there late, maybe would have got to second. Maybe if Hamlin and Elliott battled a little more there late, could he have gotten there? We could have been talking about Tyler Reddick's 6th win of the season. And then the top 5 rounded out by Prosper, Texas's Chris Buescher. A very good day for Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher being his normal sneaky self. I believe I heard on the radio this morning, top 5 in points. And I didn't realize it. Yeah, I definitely think he could win a race or two at some point this season. Is he a championship contender? I don't know. There are definitely some tracks in the playoffs that don't favor Chris Buescher. But stranger things have happened when we got to the final 10 races. Look back at 2011 with Tony Stewart. What else happened in this race? Alex Bowman finished top 3 for the second consecutive week. And this is 4th race back since the injury. And it's going to be interesting to see, talking about Hendrick and what exactly is going on there. Speed in certain cars, lack of speed. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on Alex Bowman here as we are almost halfway through the regular season. He sits 34th in points, but is only 127 points back. I say, but only 127 points back is 16th place, Chase Briscoe, and I didn't even realize Chase Briscoe was there. Doable. If he keeps running inside the top 5, definitely. But I definitely it would definitely be interesting to see again how he can continue this forward momentum, and again where Hendrick stands at the end of this month. What else? Bubba Wallace rallies to a 9th place finish after having to go to a backup car after backing it into the wall in practice. And good on that 23 team for getting the backup car prepped and marching his way through the forward. I'd like to apologize actually to the 23 team, I guess, for putting my little curse on them, since I picked them to have a very good weekend. I didn't start off well, but they salvaged a very good day nonetheless. You'll see who I am planning on cursing later on in the episode. Connor Zilic. Where are my notes on him? So Connor Zilic qualified a season best 12th. Kind of ran there most of the day, fell back a little bit from what I could remember. Eventually would bring it home in 16th, and that is his best finish on a non-road course this year. And then we head to probably one of his better chances at running well next week at Watkins Glen. So we'll see if there's a little bit of momentum can carry over into the Glen this upcoming weekend. We really didn't get to see him do all that well in Circuit of the Americas. So now you wonder, he should be maybe in the second group of according to the metrics. So maybe he will have a more favorable qualifying spot. I know the qualifying procedure for Watkins Glen is a little bit different than the oval tracks with the timed qualifying. So we'll see what he can do Saturday morning, I believe it is, to set himself up for Sunday afternoon. What else? Kyle Busch and John Hunter. So that was, we saw John Hunter get into the wall on the camera shot, I guess, at the start-finish line as they're waving the white. Good on NASCAR for not jumping the gun and throwing the caution. You didn't really know what happened until after the race when you see Kyle Busch door him and then chase him back down in turn 3. Something about Texas and Kyle Busch that makes him go after guys, I guess. Nonetheless, John Hunter got the worst in the deal, being spun in turn 3 and 4. And I believe they still both finished one in front of the other. And then both took to social media to voice their displeasures or their how they justified the incident. John Hunter getting on there saying you were not cleared. Kyle Busch posting SMT data. And then, like, it was just it was a terrible, I don't want to call it a terrible situation. I get where Kyle Busch comes from, because if you look at the SMT, it does look like John Hunter's a couple feet off the wall. But again, it was the spotters got to be screaming, "You're not clear." It's probably just another frustration boiling over for Kyle Busch, like most weeks recently. And on a weekend where they bring in a new old crew chief in Andy Street to replace Jim Pullman. They qualified decently, ran, anywhere in between, it felt like 9th and 15th all day. So they're having themselves a solid day, just to have it all overshadowed by this late race incident. And then, the more confusing thing out of it all was the pictures of when John Hunter got out of his car and he saw all the blood on his face. People were wondering if he got into a fight, but apparently it happened during the race. He just getting a bloody nose. My only thing, and I have to go back and look at the replay, and even with the Christopher Bell incident, how I know Christopher Bell hit the wall pretty flush. I'll talk about on the side. I'd be worried. I don't want to put it out there. I wouldn't be how do I put this lightly? Because I don't want to put anything out there that's not true. Hopefully everything is all good. Not that anything should warranted being bad with Christopher Bell, but it was a very flush hit. And with the concussions we've seen in this next gen car, I hope we're not sitting here tomorrow, Wednesday or Thursday, hearing about Christopher Bell having to get out of the car with a concussion. Same with John Hunter, if he also hit the wall flush. The Christopher Bell incident, really weird. Just going to avoid the 34 and getting clipped as the race leader. Texas have had some strange ones like that recently. Yeah. Joey Logano having a near miss, only for the racing gods to turn around and bite him back on pit road. It's just a lot of just strange things I feel like have been happening at Texas recently. Actually, this race, when I was looking at the the final results, this race was a half hour quicker than the last few years. Last few years have had a shit ton of cautions. This year only had, do I have it? 7 for 40 laps, whereas previous years had 14 for probably double the amount of laps. So there is that. And then finally from the on-track Cup race action, Corey Heim in his third start of the season with 23:11 led 70 laps, but it does not show on the final results. Coming home with a 31st place finish as a result of a DNF with him spinning. Was that the caution to come out? I believe. Let me look here. Let's see. Yeah, so his caution is the one that started the final sequence there. Almost benefited his teammate, almost benefited his team owner. But again, end of the day, the 9 wins, the Dawsonville Paul Room siren sounds, and Lionel is going to make a bunch of money off this diecast. Going to be backing up a Brinks truck to that place between the last 2 weeks of diecast pre-orders. And then finally, I saw this on X that Texas announced a reserve seating sellout, which is another example of single date, helping a track look better. We've seen it with Pocono. We've seen it with Richmond. Where else have we seen it? Homestead has had a few good years with that. Trying to think where else we go one time only. We go to a lot of places. Watkins Glen they've always had one date. Fans are showing up, and when they only have one option at tracks that used to have two, it seems to be helping for every place but Dover. But I will get on my Dover rant probably next week, as we head into the All-Star race there, and coming up in just under 2 weeks. What else from the weekend? We had all three series in action. So the O'Reilly race was Saturday. Kyle Larson got his second win of the season in that series. As a Kyle Larson fan, I'd rather see him win on Sunday, but whatever can put a smile on my face for 5 minutes, I guess. Second, I guess, so his second consecutive win in that race, winning it last year when filling in for Connor Zilic. Brent Cruz wins the final dash for cash. And this race got off to a very slow start. 3 cautions, all for notable incidents in the first 20 laps. A lot of cars getting destroyed. The 91, I believe, Mason Maggio was in it this week, pulling in front of the pace car after getting it going on, I believe he was a part of the second incident. And the pace car needing to make an evasive maneuver. Algar was strong. Sam Mayer was strong. Who else? It was a pretty good race. This goes back to a lot of people saying we need more racing like the O'Reilly series. We need more racing to be better than the O'Reilly series. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I'm not on the technological side of it. The mile and a halfs, I feel like, are almost as competitive as the O'Reilly series, but everywhere else, the O'Reilly series just blows the Cup cars out of the water. I don't really know what can make the racing better in the Cup series. I don't know how NASCAR feels about everyone saying that the second tier is the better series. Friday night was the truck race. Had this race up on my phone. Really did not watch it with sound up until maybe the last few laps. Was it an interesting race? Like I said, I really didn't watch much of it. The last handful of laps were really good. And at the end of that race, it was Carson Hocevar who rode the Dente Agente into victory lane with the number 77 Chili's truck, scoring his second win at Texas, which was also a sign of his first career win. But the battling towards the front was really good. I know Kyle Busch had an issue at one point, but rallied back to finish second. What has made Texas better over the last handful of years? Maybe not constantly spraying it with the PJ1 or what have you has helped. But it still seems like a difficult track. I mean, you had guys losing it on their own. That's what happened with Larson in the race, Bubba in practice, Todd Gilliland in the race. Who else ever in the O'Reilly and truck race? Again, weekend, barely saw the truck race. I honestly should have watched the highlights. Got a little interesting towards the end. Had a couple red flags. The grass destroyed a couple trucks. But yeah, it was. I don't know what else to say about it. Maybe I should just go back and rewatch the highlights and get back to you guys on that. But into, I guess, today's main topic I want to talk about. And honestly, I started putting this all together before the race, like an hour before the race, and I just kept working on it. So it's very interesting, especially knowing now how this race panned out for both these drivers. But we are in the first full week of May. We are creeping up on silly season, and quite possibly the biggest shoe that needs to fall is figuring out what happens with Kyle Busch. Which leads me into how I phrased this question. Because even though he's had a decent start, is Daniel Suarez in the hot seat in that 7 car? And that is only because a lot of people seem to think Kyle Busch is going to go to that 7 car next year. And I don't envy Spire's decision right now. Other than the beginning half of the 2023 schedule, Kyle Busch's career with RCR has been anything but spectacular. And it begs the question, can Kyle Busch get back to his winning ways? Or is he washed? And he clearly isn't washed, because he's going out in these other series and proving he still can get it done, even if he's not ending up in victory lane. And I get it. There's a big difference between running second in the Cup race and running second in the truck race. But over the last handful of years, he's had a handful of different crew chiefs. Most notably after this past weekend, when it was announced last Monday or Tuesday that they would be making the switch back to Andy Street from Jim Pullman. Now Kyle has worked with Andy Street in the past, last season, so we'll see if that relationship can yield better results. But RCR as a whole just is struggling. We all know that. And honestly, I think the only reason this comes up is because Kyle has a relationship with Spire Motorsports right now. Co-owner Jeff Dickerson, who co-owner Jeff Dickerson, who co-owns Spire Motorsports. That's not a terrible sentence. He managed Kyle Busch apparently, and spotted for him in the late 2000s. There, I want to say probably around 07, 08. So he has a relationship with him. He competes for Spire in the O'Reilly Truck Series, and at 13 starts, has 4 wins, and still has 7 more starts this year for the team. And those are here. I have it written down. Has not 7. I only have a handful. Okay, so he has a handful more starts for this the 7 team this year. He has Dover, Charlotte, Nashville, North Wilkesboro, Richmond. All tracks. Actually, no, he's never won at North Wilkesboro, nor Richmond in a truck. But the Spire trucks seem to be fast, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him winning those races in a few months from now. but I think something a lot of people forget is Kyle Busch also sold KBM to Spire. Everything from Spire was once KBM. Um, so there's there's clearly a defined relationship between Kyle and Spire. Um, but you look at Suarez, whose Cup career, let's be honest, started prematurely with the retirement of Carl Edwards. I feel like I just talked about Daniel Suarez too, but I couldn't find it in my notes. Um, Started his career prematurely um, with the sudden retirement of Carl Edwards. Just never could find his footing in Gibbs. Um, would then jump to the 41 for a year for Stuart Haas. We're having a wash year during 2020 um, at Gaunt Brothers in the 96 car, and then ultimately being the first and sort of the flagship driver for Trackhouse for when they started up in 2021. But, as we all know, he wasn't extended after beyond last season, allowing Trackhouse to make room for Connor Zilic. So he takes over the 7 ride vacated by Justin Haley, who was in Spire, out of Spire, back into Spire, which feels like a weird kind of circle because now Justin Haley's also gone back to another old team. But Justin Haley last year in that 7 car, and I get Spire was a little, their performance wasn't as good as it was this year, has been this year. But last year he had 2 top 10s, averaged about a 23rd place start with a 20 and a 22nd place finish. So, that stereotypical mid-pack runner with the occasional spurt there. I believe one of those top 10s was one of the plate tracks anyway. But through the 10 races, Daniel Suarez has matched Justin Haley's stats, at least on the top 10s. He's doing better when it comes to starting and finishing races other than Justin Haley. And I hate to say that because I feel like Justin Haley is a hidden talent. Just waiting for the right opportunity. And even then, like I said, Spire's been off to a hot start this year between all 3 of their cars. Michael McDowell has kind of reeled it back a little bit over the last handful of weeks, struggling to get the results of his teammates. But when you look at through the first handful of races here for Suarez, and I hate to put it use Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega as examples because they are great unknowns. Starts 15th, finishes 13th, but starts in the rear actually on a backup car. Atlanta, he finishes 5th. Coda, finishes mid-20s. Phoenix is the only year is the only race this year he did not finish. He has completed all but 60-something laps this season, which is pretty good so far, especially for the calamity we saw last week in Talladega and a little bit we had in Atlanta. Vegas, not too far from start to finish. Darlington, he's not really moving through the pack where it's yesterday he started second, he faded. They were there was a complaining of an issue But again, he still rallied to finish sixth. Um, See, like he's getting what he can out of that car, and the results are showing for it. And it's really going to put Spire in what's this? In between a rock and a hard place on getting rid of him. Now, the only thing that could work for Spire, and I don't know why I kept seeing this solely today, and that's if Michael McDowell just randomly retired, but I can't see that happening. Um, then all this kind of is just me wasting my breath. But Suarez so far through 10 or 11 races, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 races. He sat in a chase spot majority of the season. The only time he fell out was after the wreck in Phoenix. I think he currently sits 14th as well. And another thing I think that has to be looked at is just the overall marketability of both drivers. There's a specific fan base that really likes Daniel Suarez, and it's not just them. He's a likable driver. He's a marketable driver. He comes with, I would assume he comes with the freeway insurance sponsorship, since they went from Trackhouse over to Spire, and Freeway is one of the core four sponsors for the Cup Series as well. He's one of two international drivers on the grid. Outreach wise, I believe he still does his Daniel's Amigos incentive for certain races. And I'm not saying this to poo-poo Kyle Busch, but I could see where sponsors get off liking Daniel Suarez more than Kyle Busch, especially because you could look up Kyle Busch and see a lot of negative things that have came from him. Now, fortunately for, in this case of both drivers, looking at for sponsorship, one of the other co-owners of Spire, Dan Taurus, uses his Group 1001 company and its subsidiaries as sponsorship for the team. We've seen it with Group 1001 on the car, Gainbridge. There was the other one. I believe Delaware Life is another one. So how much sponsorship do they really need to find for either driver? And could that be a decision when it comes to possibly looking at getting Kyle Busch in the 7 next year? Because like I said, Daniel does sort of come with that freeway insurance money. And if we remember back in 2022, was it 20? Yeah. One of the big issues for Joe Gibbs, at least that they publicized, was trying to find a sponsor to replace M&M's after they left. Because Kyle Busch also yields a bigger salary than Daniel Suarez. They couldn't find sponsorship, so that was definitely one of the contributing reasons to to push Kyle out of the 18, because eventually Ty Gibbs was going to get in a Cup car with or without sponsorship, in my humble opinion. Just because his name's on the door. But it definitely helped having that monster energy backing to fund that 54, and the coach isn't exactly paying out of pocket for his grandson to race. So very interesting to see what silly season is going to shape up to be. Um, Again, I don't think um, I don't think it'd be a surprise if we're talking about Kyle Busch moving into that 7. But also, I just don't think Suarez has done anything yet. I don't want to say even yet, but he hasn't done anything to warrant losing that ride yet. And I hate to see them pull the plug on him because there's not really many options out there. Even though I firmly believed Daniel was going to go back down to the O'Reilly series this past season, and in a junior motorsports car, but I was wrong. Um, I will add this because I have it here and I don't know how to fit it in with everything else. If Kyle does go into the 7 next season, he's talked a lot, especially when he was with Gibbs, of wanting to run the Indy 500. And he's said in recent years that his window to run the Indy 500 is gone. He'll never run the Indy 500. But you almost wonder if he does go to Spire. Dan Towers is also part owner or the owner of Andretti Global. He also owns, is a co-owner in the Cadillac F1 team. This guy just has so much money to have so much fun with. While I agree, I don't think a Indy 500 opportunity is on the cards now. I would almost like to see, again, if he does get in that 7, could he maybe run that Phoenix race if it is a doubleheader again next year, like it was this year? Or is Kyle, the only way he's going to get in an Indy car is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But we will see. Silly season looms here. There's no real official start to silly season. One big name knocked off the board last weekend with 23XI re-signing Tyler Reddick long term. Who else? Alex Bowman's in a contract year. I thought I saw on X that there's apparently like 21 unsigned drivers for next year. I don't even know who any of them would be. I thought a lot of the grid was mostly locked up. But I guess not. I do want to do a silly season video here coming up. But maybe as it gets closer and within the next month, I'll put something together, get my thoughts out there. I think the most compelling and interesting spots to know where guys are going to go is the third legacy car, the 35 car for 23XI. And actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I wonder if Corey Heim does get into that car next year, would they rebrand it to the 67? Just a thought of mine. Something we've seen in recent years where teams will, quote unquote, retire a number and bring in another one, like what Gibbs did with 18, swapping that out for 54. I believe Gibbs still has 18. What's going to happen with Alex Bowman? Going back to legacy, I believe Jimmy Johnson last week announced that third charter is going to be the number 84. And that when he runs Daytona next year for his final NASCAR start, that will be the 13. What other rides are available for next season? Why am I blanking? Ryan Preece. Been a lot of talk about him recently, because apparently the charter that they use is the one I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm tangled up here. What is going on here? I'm free. Um, that charter is so. What is that charter is Rick Ware's charter that's being leased to RFK, but then Rick Ware is selling it to Legacy. I believe that's how it's working. Um, so we will again. I think we're probably about a month and a half out from anything interesting happening. Um, there's definitely more drivers than seats. So the main question is who is going to be the odd man out. Um, what else? What else from the weekend? What else happened in the weekend? Formula One had another parade, this time in a parking lot in Miami. That was another actual nice thing. Not having the NASCAR race go up against Formula One. I did watch the F1 race. It's all right. Um, it's funny. Every week that F1's race, I kind of wanted to get on here and just fully bash them. The racing's been a little more artificial than years past. I know it's got some purists um, upset. I'm just going to say this as a whole. Um, and I really only, I don't want to say I only pay attention to Formula One now because of my sister, because I watched for years before she got into it. But now I just have a family member that I could talk to about it. Um, I think, look, there's an oversaturation in races in the United States. We all know that. There's three of them. Miami's the worst one out of the three of them. I think the on track product sucks. I think a lot of the on track product in Formula One sucks to begin with. Yeah, it was compelling, but that was aided by a safety car. Um, but once the Mercedes got to the lead, the race was theoretically over. Um, I mean, that's how Formula One's been in years. But if you are a longtime fan of Formula One, not saying I am, and I hate to phrase it like this, but they don't care about you. Um, the amount of posts I saw this past weekend of who's in Miami for this race, it's ridiculous. Um, I get having having celebrities promote your event, but I mean, what you're doing is you're making it what Formula One has turned into in America is a billionaire sport for millionaires to attend. Um, after one of these years, I forgot what year the race was. I want to say it was the 2023 race or the 2024 race. I called up because I was genuinely curious. I was like, they know they're going to be back next year. I want to price out. I have family that lives down that way in Florida, so I could stay with them. There's multiple different options to fly in, so airfare can't be that terrible. Um, I was told for a 3-day pass, it was like nine and change. That's a grounds pass. That's not even my butt in a seat. That's ridiculous. Um, from a fan experience, NASCAR blows Formula One away 100 times. Um, and that's not even my own bias. I have been to a Formula One race. I was up in Montreal in 2023. Um, honestly, why I pushed for NASCAR to go back to Formula One because I enjoyed the track. NASCAR to go back to Montreal because it was I it was it was a pretty cool experience of getting there and uh, watching the racing. But, and I'll use this as an example because I even looked yesterday. So a 3-day, I forgot what grandstand I sat in. It probably would have been turn 7 or 8. A 3-day ticket, I think I paid maybe $330 per ticket. So my sister and I. We did not use the Friday. We both had to work that day. So we drove up from where we live. It was about a 6-hour ride to Plattsburgh, which is a small town, maybe 15 minutes from the Canadian border, because the hotels there were $100 a night compared to the $800 a night in Montreal. So that was just one way to save costs. We drove, then you got to take the train. But again, that was all fine. The price of that wasn't bad. It rained, but there's nothing you could do about it. Again, I'm used to sitting through a 3.5-hour race. So when the race was over in an hour and a half, we booked it back to the train station to make the 7-hour ride back down to back home. But I did not feel like the value was there in that ticket. The seats were tight. You felt like, and I get it, I'm a big guy, but you just felt like they were just cramming as many people as they could into this venue. And then I go online yesterday to look at Canadian Grand Prix tickets. Not that I would go this year because they stupidly moved it to the same weekend as Memorial Day. So now, instead of having Monaco at 9, Indy at 11, the Coke 600 at 5 or 6, whatever time it begins, now we have Montreal in there. And that now it hurts former IndyCar driver Colton Herta's attempt to run the Indy 500 this year. But I was looking at the ticket prices for that same grandstand that I sat in 3 years ago is now up to $6, $7 and change for a 3-day ticket. You don't get to do anything else. You're getting the same experience. And it's just, I don't get where these ticket prices come from. You see people that, look like and I get Formula One is the one inviting these celebrities. David Coulthard said it best a handful of years ago when it came to Christina Aguilera. There's Christina Aguilera faking an interest in Formula One, and that's what these races have turned into. Most notably, if you watched yesterday, now here in the United States, we have it on Apple TV, but I prefer the Sky Sports feed that they still have on Apple TV. And during Martin's grid walk, like Jimmy Fallon's sitting there going nuts. I guarantee you, in a week, you go to Jimmy Fallon, he'll probably, yeah, it's cool. Like, these events aren't significant to these celebrities, these influencers. They're just doing it for clout, and it's annoying. It irks me when and I'll use, I've gotten VIP passes for races in the past. I had one weekend given to me, and then I bought 2. I was given a VIP pass for Pocono in 24. I bought 25 for Pocono, and I bought Darlington, the Southern 500 of 2025. And then but what irks me is you go on social media and I get it. They want people to make content, to have eyes on their sport. And NASCAR's done this in the past too, but not as bad. Give back to your diehard fan. Don't give back to the guy that's going to make a quick 30-second clip and then not give a rat's ass about it. Because end of the day, look, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you from this 8x8 prison cell at my 9 to 5 job. Actually, 8 to 4 job. This room is decked out in racing stuff. When I go home, I have more NASCAR stuff there. My life revolves around this sport. And it irks me when you have people that, again, and I get it, it's just trying to get clicks. I'm not trying to complain. I'm not looking for a hard card. I'm not looking for VIP passes to every race. But by the grace of God, if this clip finds Steve O'Donnell or Ben Kennedy, and they want to make, they want to help grow fan engagement, give back to your hardcore fan. I don't want to see, and I'll just use Jimmy Fallon as an example. I don't want to see him parading around the start-finish line of the Coca-Cola 600. I don't care. Hardcore fans don't care about that. You're pandering to the lowest fan that just knows someone's there. Give back to your fan base. And I feel like with this new regime, we just might get to it. And this is all coming from Formula One just wanting clicks, wanting views. A lot of their newer fans have come from the awful Netflix Drive to Survive thing. It's funny, I would make fun of my sister saying, "Oh, you're just a Drive to Survive fan." As much as she doesn't want to admit it, she was, but she has said to me she hasn't watched Drive to Survive probably since 2022, 2023, 2021, my bad. Because when you actually look at it, when you invest yourself in it, you see the bullshit it is. But if that's the way they want to go, look, the F1 movie, if this is the way F1 wants to, pander to their crowd, that's fine. The F1 movie, any NASCAR fan that watches that could easily be like, that's just rich people Days of Thunder. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that movie. And could people say, yeah, I went into that movie with that thought? Probably. But it wasn't good. That movie is an FU to your hardcore fans. It's an FU to anyone that's trying to, and I get it, it's just a movie. It's fictitious, but it's an FU to the system in which Formula One runs their races. I'm going to keep hammering this home. Again, fictitious, but I mean, if you're going to make a movie to promote the sport, have it be somewhat realistic. A guy that's been out of the sport for 30 years wouldn't have a super license. Formula One likes to make a big deal about, the FIA likes to make a big deal about super license points. And yet here is ancient Brad Pitt playing Sonny Hayes having a super license to run for, let's be honest, the equivalent of Aston Martin nowadays. It was bullshit. I'm going to finish my rant here. Just Formula One has to do better by their loyal fans. I don't care about, half of these celebrities, majority of the celebrities. And honestly, it goes the same way with NASCAR, but we just don't publicize it as much. And even the celebrities we do publicize in NASCAR, they enjoy it. Like Ryan Priest said yesterday, rant over. Let's finish this thing up here strong. This week's win stickers. Once again, going to give out 2 win stickers this week. Not that anyone actually gets them. Not that I stick them on anything. 2 Two of them, the first one, Bubba and the 23 team. Again, my apologies. And while I'm apologizing, let me apologize to the 16 team in the Truck Series for cursing them as well. Although Sam Mayer, who I picked to have a good run, finished third this past week. Yeah. Top 10 after starting in the back with a backup car after wrecking during practice. Not half bad. And my other win sticker is going to go to, if I have this correct, because in the moment I didn't jot it down. Donald Graves, the 101-year-old Iwo Jima survivor who sung the national anthem yesterday. Is a beautiful rendition, and thank you for your service. So those are this week's win stickers. Maybe I'll put up like I know this is gonna sound pathetic. Maybe I'll do like a good noodle board, like they had in that one episode of SpongeBob, and I will maybe put stickers up. I have a dry erase board. Probably gonna be covered by like a frame. It's right here. Maybe I'll turn that into like my win stickers, good noodle board. Looking ahead as we finish things up here, Watkins Glen this weekend. For the first time in May, for some reason in May, it can't be a good reason. Right now it's an unknown reason why this race has moved from August to May. I really got screwed by again, this is going to sound very selfish. I got screwed by the schedule this year. Some of it was my doing. This one wasn't my doing. Yes, I could go to the race, but it's Mother's Day. I'm going to spend the day with my mom. Even though that's going to be her sitting on her iPad and me watching a NASCAR race. A lot of people are making jokes saying that there's going to be snow on the ground this weekend. Weather's looking mid-60s, possible rain on Saturday. What else? My one concern for Watkins Glen this weekend is not on track, but is the attendance. Watkins Glen, I've been to Watkins Glen a few times. If anyone ever wants to go to a road course and wants to travel for one, go to Watkins Glen. The best road course we have on the circuit. Beautiful part of our country and my home state. But walking around, what I would normally do is Watkins Glen, one of the tracks where a lot of tracks do it, but I think they only sell 2-day tickets. I don't think they sell single-day ticket. So that Saturday, I would normally start in the S's for the first stage. I'd walk down to the bus stop for the second stage, and then just start slowly making my way back to the start-finish line for the end of the race. And when you're walking around, I've never been to Talladega. I've heard the camping there's nuts. The camping at Watkins Glen is on another level. It's actually on my bucket list of NASCAR things to do, is to camp at Watkins Glen. And I'm very interested to see how the infield looks this weekend. Schools are still in session here in New York State. People would make a whole week out of it when it's in the summer. We had 2 years ago now, and it was in September, and that really didn't affect anything. But we are towards the end of the school year here, so it's going to be very interesting. I really hope this isn't too detrimental to the track, but just enough to kind of force NASCAR to bring it back to September to August, or make it a playoff race, a chase race next season. I would thoroughly enjoy that. But all three series will be in action this weekend, as well as the ARCA series. Sunday at 3 p.m. on FS1. 100 laps. SVG is the defending race winner. I believe technically it's a week from today, Monday, May 11th, will mark a whole calendar year since Kyle Larson's last win. That with also winning a championship. Look, real quick side note. Is this the is Kyle Larson's struggles um the NASCAR gods kind of being like, hey, we gave you another championship, but you're gonna be in for it in the 2026 season, because I would have easily have given up that championship for a decent year this year. This kind of sucked, although that was fun to watch in November. What else? I think the other thing I saw from earlier today, Catherine Legg is going to get behind the wheel of the 78 for Live Fast Motorsports for Live Fast with help from Elf. They'll also be on her Elf Cosmetics. They'll also be on her IndyCar coming up in the Indy 500 at the end of this month. Just looking to see if anything has came out that I have to make a note of here. Do we have an entry list? Bob Parkers has tweeted. We do have an entry list. 38 cars for, everyone makes the field. Any interesting sponsors this week? Brad Keselowski's running a Modelo car this week. Interesting. And Chase Briscoe is going to run a Mobil 1 car. I wonder if that's the same paint scheme. That's always been that Brent Cruz has been running, or if they're going to change it up. So that's the Cup race on Sunday. Saturday at 4 p.m. on the CW is the O'Reilly race. 82 laps. Connor Zilic is the defending race winner of that one. And I got a couple notes on this. I'm just trying to click into this. All right. Here is the O'Reilly. Zilic in the 1, SVG in the 9, Chastain in the 32. They're your Trackhouse guys. Going to be running the O'Reilly race. So Carson Kvapil moves over to the 91 this week. Friday at 4:30 on FS1 is the truck race, 72 laps. Corey Heim, the defending race winner. And it doesn't look like Corey Heim is going to attempt to run it back. Brent Cruz is in the 1. Adam Andretti's in the 5. I know it was announced Frankie Muniz won't be running the 33. Bob Pockrass has Steven Malozzi, which has a guy who has a weird cult following amongst certain fans. He'll be in the 33 this week. Let's see. Connor Mozak in the 7. AJ Allmendinger's in the 25 ran, but we kind of knew that because it was teased at when he subbed in the 10. Carson Hocevar driving the 77. Zilic in the 71. There's a potential. There is a potential this week to have a driver can become a triple threat driver. I mean, who would it be? You'd have, if SVG could win the truck race, he's running the 4 truck for Nice. If he wins the truck race, he becomes a triple threat driver. If Connor Zilic knocks off the truck and the Cup win, he becomes a triple threat driver. I believe that's what they call it. But that was another thing I wanted to bring up. Who's the next one? I think Carson Hocevar needs to get. I was listening to him on the Dale Jr. download this past week. I think he can get his O'Reilly win if he gets in that JRM 9 car at some point this year. But I think that car's all booked up. A couple other notable entries in that truck race too. And then the ARCA race is at 1:30 on Friday, I believe. Why does that not sound right? Either Friday or Saturday. Probably Friday. I would assume on FS1 or FS2. But I have not seen anything regarding that. To close it out, Nick's picks for the week. Last week I picked / cursed Bubba Wallace. Like I said before, finished 9th after a practice crash. Sam Mayer, who finished 3rd, but does not get an ice cream named after him. And Justin Haley, who finished 27th after getting the front end of his race truck torn off. Going into this weekend, I'm going to give you Cup last because I honestly don't know. Trucks, give me Chandler Smith. O'Reilly, give me Sheldon Creed. Who do I want to pick? There's so many good options. I'll just take William Byron at this point. He'll be the best under car this weekend. So that's gonna do it for this week. Enjoy the racing in Watkins Glen at this weekend. Probably some of the best racing you'll see all season. And I will talk to you guys next week. May the 4th be with you.